Hey, everybody. You're about to hear a synopsis of the movie 12 and Holding. Enjoy watching. Twin brothers Jacob and Rudy ride their bikes up to the treehouse. There they started getting stoned by bullies Jeff and Ken who want to get to the brothers. But Rudy poured urine from a bucket on them. The bullies puked and retreated, but promised revenge. Another hero is the fat boy Leonard, who gorges himself at the table with his large family. Molly Chan is being raised by one mother, the one who argues with her ex-husband on the phone and can't help the girl figure out what to do about the tampon. Molly proudly announced to Leonardo that she will now be able to have a baby. All of these kids are 12 years old and friends. Boyish kid Rudy is glad he's been collecting urine for a long time. She saved today, but Jacob is worried that the bullies will come back and kick their asses. It's the twins' birthday today. As always, it was Rudy who got the cool present. Jacob keeps his mask on, even during the town party. Apparently, he found out that the hooligans are going to destroy their house tonight. Cowardly Jacob wanted to stay home, but Leonard agreed to keep the house defenses up. Rudy once again called his brother a pussy and took his bat and headed into the woods. We finally find out why Jacob wears a mask all the time. He has a huge birthmark halfway down his face. Leonard was supposed to be on duty, but fell asleep and missed the moment when Jeff and Kenny approached the cabin. They lit Molotov cocktails on fire and launched them at the cabin. Kenny's bottle went down and Jeff's hit it exactly on target. The halibuttal caught fire. Hearing that the guys were inside, lanky Jeff got scared and ran away. Kenny stayed behind to help. Leonard fell out of the cabin and hit his head, knocking him unconscious. Kenny pulled him aside, but there was nothing he could do to help Rudy. The child screamed and was burned alive in seconds. Jacob believes that he is also to blame for his brother's death because he was not there to help. His parents brought Leonard fast food into the room. The boy burst into tears when his mom talked about his dead friend. Molly came to the clinic in morning attire, and there a local man, Gus, spoke to her and promised her that she would like the psychologist. Molly is approached by Dr. Chang to support her daughter. Parents want to feed Leonard, and the doctor tells them that because of the head injury the boy has lost his sense of smell, it affects the taste. Maybe it's for the best. After all, the boy is overweight. If Leonard can't taste it anymore, the nurse suggested he eat an apple instead of a burger. At least it's crunchy. The kids came to see how the place they'd recently played was cleared. Their Molly saw Gus without his shirt on and spoke to him. The boys had already left, but the girl continued to stare at the laborer. The new school year started. The teacher was doing roll call when Jacob announced that Rudy wasn't coming in anymore. She asked not to joke about it, but she had to apologize a second later. In gym class, Leonard couldn't do a single pull-up. Not even with the teacher's help. The coach supported the kid. He gave him 2 books. One on nutrition, one on exercise. If Leonard puts in the effort, he can even play soccer in high school. Jacob hears his parents arguing. They find out that the bullies who beat up Rudy only got a year in jail and 5 years probation. Mr. Kurgess convinces his wife that it was an accident and the kids should be given a second chance, but the woman disagrees. "I want them dead," Jacob tells his friends. "I can handle a year in jail." Molly advises him to come to terms with what happened. That's what her mother tells all patients. The boy decided to go to the colony where his brother's killers are imprisoned and talk to them. He began to tell Kenny how he would cut off his fingers, nose, tongue, and ears. When they find him, he'll be like a disassembled jigsaw puzzle and not care if it was an accident. The killer will pay for everything. Molly came to the woods where Gus was working. She supposedly decided to have a picnic here and invited the man to have lunch with her for company. The girl says that after the funeral of a friend, she realized that it is necessary to party hard and do what she likes. Molly has always been scared to play a solo on the flute, but this year she will definitely dare to do it. Gus promised he would definitely come watch and thanked her so much for lunch. Mom had prepared a huge amount of food for Leonardo and spiced it all up so that he would feel something. The woman took offense when her son refused and said that eating apples alone was actually unhealthy. Leonard went jogging for the first time today, but could only run to the neighbor's house. Molly decided to find out what her mom was talking about during the session, so she gathered some information about the man. As promised, Gus came to hear Millie perform, and the girl performed a cover of a song that Gus hears in his nightmares. The man was very surprised. "I'm burning for you," sang the little girl to her new friend. Gus approached her after the performance. Molly lied that she chose that song because her mom had sung it last week. Gus thanked her for her performance and gave her a friendly kiss on the cheek. But it meant so much more to Molly. Leonard doesn't take training lightly, but he doesn't give up. After a while, the stubborn boy starts losing weight and getting rid of candy, even on Halloween, even if it's his sister's candy. His mother suspects that he's joined a cult and has been zombified, and Leonard wishes someone had thrown out his candy earlier. Then you wouldn't be such a fat pig. Jeff is brutally beaten at the colony, and Jacob brings pictures of his brother to look at. The boy comes to the colony every month to remind the bullies what they've done and to find out how bad their lives are here. Kenny freaks out and demands that he never come here again. Molly shows up at the construction site to feed Gus candy. The building is being erected right on the site of Rudy's death, and for some reason Gus goes into withdrawal every time there's talk of death. One day, a joyous Mrs. Kurgess informs the family that Jeff has died. He couldn't stand life in the colony. Justice had been served. Jack came to Kenya and said he was sorry his friend was dead. He didn't even gloat when the bully cried. In the evening, Molly went over to visit Gus, but he was not at home. Then the girl found the key and opened the door herself. Molly sniffed the man's clothes and began to go through his things. In a desk drawer she found a gun. At this point, a completely drunk Gus came home. In front of Molly hiding under the bed, he stripped naked and climbed into the shower. Turning on the water, he burst into loud tears. The girl came close and almost touched him, but at the last moment changed her mind. His parents had given Jacob a lot of expensive gifts for Christmas, and the last of them was the news that they were going to adopt a child, preferably a boy. And Leonard even eats apples at the holiday table, which is a real tragedy for his mom. Molly comes to visit Jacob and pulls Gus's gun out of her backpack. She won't admit where she got it from, but she asked her friend to hide it somewhere. The girl is afraid Gus might hurt himself. Spring came and the chubby boy returned to active training. For this, his father will not take him on a trip. Then Leonard asked his parents to give him money for new clothes. The old ones are already hanging on him, but his mother said that they are not rich and Leonard can't change his closet whenever he wants. Jacob continues to visit Kenya, but as his buddy. The kid reports that because of his good behavior, he will be released early. He hopes Jacob isn't mad at him about it. The kid is the only one who's been coming to see him all this time. Even his own mother doesn't care about him. Molly put on her mom's makeup and once again visited Gus at work. The man complimented her. Gus gives advice to the little friend to meet exactly with peers, say older guys can be impatient, and she is only 12, but Molly categorically disagrees with him. Gus himself broke up with his girlfriend. They were the same age. It's the soul that counts. Sisters with his father went on vacation, and Leonard had to stay with his unbearable mother. The kid dragged a mattress down to the basement for some reason and blocked the window. Suddenly he squealed and called his mom for help, and when the woman came downstairs, he shut her out and blocked the door with boards. His parents introduced Jacob to his new brother. He was a dark-skinned kid named Keith. Jacob said he didn't expect his new brother to be a brother. Leonard opened the window and put a bowl of lettuce and a couple of apples in front of his mother. Mr. Chong does not communicate with his daughter at all. The girl blames her mother for this because she constantly yells at him. Molly called her mother a bitch and threatens to go live with her father. But if he wanted to, he would at least visit her sometimes. Jacob complains to Kenny about his family. He finally admits it was an accident and wants to move to another state with Kenny. He will help pack all the necessary things. In the morning, Leonardo's mother is hungry and has a different view of the apples on the floor. The woman is hysterical and demands to be let out. Leonard, meanwhile, is preparing a healthy meal for his mother. He didn't notice how he accidentally turned on the gas while wiping down the stove. The woman picked up an apple and greedily gulped it down. By evening, the concentration of gas became deadly. Leonard coughed and then lost consciousness. The mother woke up and smelled the strong odor of gas. She tried to shout to her son, but she could not be heard because of the loud music. The woman put all her strength into kicking the door, and when she did so, she collapsed on the floor. She crawled over to her son and started giving him CPR. But the boy did not regain consciousness. Meanwhile, Molly waited for Gus to come out of the house and snuck inside. Washed the dishes, made the bed, and added intimacy to the interior. Then she put on her mom's stockings and shoes and set the table. Finally, Gus came home. "I made dinner, my love," said the girl, and threw off her robe. The shocked man asked Molly to get dressed. In response, he heard a declaration of love and a request to touch her. Gus's eyes reddened. He threw a jacket over his young guest and went to the phone to call her mom. At the hospital Leonard came to, he learned that Mom was alive, but she had broken her hip and a few ribs. Gus went to see Ms. Jenk and apologized for what happened. He knew the girl had a crush on him, but she was so lonely, and for him, talking to her had been real therapy. He stopped having nightmares. Gus used to work as a fireman. A whole family burned down in one house, and he found a little girl with half her face burned off. She was still alive. The pain must have been excruciating. She was begging to be killed. Gus still doesn't know if he did the right thing. And he saw a similar look on Molly's face. She wanted him to take away her pain. Kenya and Jacob are preparing to escape. The bully hopes his partner doesn't fall asleep at the last minute. Jacob hurts Keith every time he takes with Rudy's stuff. He accuses his mother of replacing his brother with a stepchild. Except that the couple has been discussing taking a child from the orphanage for years, but Jacob is still resentful of his parents. He felt that they loved Rudy more and pretended that there was something wrong with him, but there was nothing wrong with him. His mother began to reassure the boy that she loved him and would do everything she could to make him well. Suddenly, Mrs. Kurgess told her son that she wished the other boy would die too, even though it wasn't Christian. Jacob saw his brother in the reflection of the mirror and nodded approvingly. Molly finally spoke to her father and realized that he didn't need her, but the girl wanted him to say it with a look in his eyes. Jacob got up in the middle of the night and met Kenny at the appointed place. The man threw his friend a raincoat. Jacob put on his hockey mask and got ready to walk through the construction site, saying that way they could take a shortcut. Leonard came to his mom's room from his Ford drip and apologized. The woman will not tell anyone what happened between them, and she also promised her son to try, especially Leonard does not ask her to run marathons. It is enough to run to the end of the block. The boy knows perfectly well how difficult it is, but he will support his mom. Jacob stopped next to where the treehouse used to be and pointed the gun at Kenny. Jacob stood up and put the gun in his backpack. Kenny was dead. The killer packed up all of his belongings and buried the boy's body at the site of his future home. Back home, Kenny put his brother's glove on Keith's bed. He came to terms with the loss. The construction work continued, and in front of Jacob's eyes, Kenny's grave was poured with cement. Meanwhile, a happy Molly was on her way to meet her father, and Leonard's entire family was now gorging on salads. Mom looked at Jacob without even realizing that her son had already granted her wish.